Welcome. Feel free to relax and drift away to some soothing Marvel lore. Peter Benjamin Parker was born in Queens to CIA agents Richard and Mary Parker, who were killed by the communist Red Skull and framed for treason during a mission. Following his parents' death, a young Parker was adopted by his uncle and aunt, Ben and May Parker, moving in with them at their residence in Forest Hills, New York. After their adopting of him, they became his surrogate parents and raised him as if he were their own son. Over the years into being a teenager, Parker grew to be a prodigy in multiple scholastic subjects at Midtown High School and achieving high honors among his classmates. However, his reserved nature and enthusiasm for knowledge often made him a target for bullying, primarily football star Eugene "Flash" Thompson. When Peter was 15 years old, he attended the public exhibition of a device called the Isotope Genome Accelerator. A spider on the scene was irradiated by the accelerator during its demonstration. In sudden shock, the arachnid landed on the hand of the oblivious student and bit him before dying from the exposure to radiation. Initially malazed by the incident, Peter left the venue. He was almost hit by a car until he instinctively leapt out of the way, clinging to the side of a building a couple of meters high. Peter discovered that he had somehow gained superhuman powers that he immediately associated with the bite at the demonstration. The proportionate strength, speed, and agility of a spider, as well as surface scaling, and a precognitive ability to detect and avoid danger that he dubbed Spider Sense. Encountering an ad offering a cash prize for lasting 3 minutes in the ring with Joseph Crusher Hogan, Peter decided this would be a good way to test his powers. Wearing a mask to avoid humiliation in case of defeat, Peter used his powers and easily defeated his opponent. TV producer Maxwell Schiffman observed his performance and convinced him to go on television with his act. Designing a full costume and fabricating synthetic spider's web and wrist-mounted web shooters, Peter debuted as Spiderman to become an immediate sensation. Following his first TV appearance, Spider-Man witnessed a fleeing robber run past him, and Peter opted against stopping the thief, maintaining that it wasn't his responsibility. Later, Peter returned home one day to learn from the police that his Uncle Ben had been murdered by a burglar. Also learning that the police had the murderer holed up in a warehouse, Peter changed into his Spider-Man costume and cornered the burglar, only to discover that he was the same thief he had allowed to escape days earlier. Filled with remorse knowing that his inaction led to tragedy, Peter realized that when someone has the power, they have an obligation to use it responsibly. From this realization of the gravity of events, he decided to become a vigilante superhero helping whoever he could. The first problem young Peter faced was the lack of money with the death of his uncle. Due to the fact that his Aunt May was too weak to work and Peter was seen as fragile, he decided to get a job, even though Aunt May wanted him to become a scientist instead. Peter even thought about using his spider powers for crime out of desperation, but decided against it after thinking how his aunt would react to him in jail. However, it was seeming impossible to him to find a job in order to pay his growing debts. As Spider-Man, he was not able to continue his career as TV star because of J. Jonah Jameson, owner of the Now magazine and the newspaper Daily Bugle, who started a smear campaign against Spidey. Jameson would make statements that he was a bad influence for children and a criminal for taking justice into his own hands, referring to the situation with the burglar. Protests started taking effect and turning the public perception against Spider-Man, eventually causing Spidey's manager to leave him, impeding his ability to earn money even in costume. With these forced change of events, Peter searched through the wanted ads, only to be rejected by all the employers. Not being able to use his superpowers as Spider-Man infuriated Peter, and his fury only intensified after seeing his Aunt May selling her jewelry to try and earn some money. Spidey's second heroic action was to save Jameson's astronaut son, John Jameson, from an accident in a deviated space capsule. Spider-Man hitched a ride on a small airplane and boarded the capsule during re-entry. Spidey then attached the missing capsule piece, allowing it to land safely. Although he had saved John, Spidey was still blamed by J.J. Jameson for the accident. Later, trying to find a way to make some money, he decided to join the superhero team, the Fantastic Four. Spidey intruded into the Baxter building, battling the FF as a way of showing them his power, but the team refused Spidey's entry after explaining to him that they did not get paid for their actions and that they were a family, not an enterprise. Later that day, the Russian criminal and master of disguise known as the Chameleon used Spider-Man's identity to steal defense missile plans. The real Spidey was used by Chameleon as a pawn to escape the scene without problems. After managing to avoid capture by the police, Spider-Man caught Chameleon in a helicopter before he could reach a Soviet submarine and handed him over to the authorities. Peter finally found a way to make money when the Daily Bugle asked for photos of the winged criminal known as the Vulture. Not only did Spider-Man defeat the villain, he also found a way to take photos, which caused J.J. Jameson to hire Peter to get him pictures of Spider-Man, under the condition that the publicist would not ask Peter how he took the pictures. Eventually, Peter graduated from high school as valedictorian and enrolled at Empire State University on a science scholarship, meeting new classmates such as Harry Osborn and Gwen Stacy. Even though he got off to a bad start with them, finally Peter became friends with them as well as Flash. The Green Goblin came back and discovered Spider-Man's identity, kidnapping him and revealing his own alter ego, that of Norman Osborn, Harry's father. In a furious battle, the villain lost all memories of his time as a supervillain. During that time, Spider-Man fought new foes such as the Rhino, the Shocker, as well as teaming up with Doctor Strange to defeat the wizard known as Xandu. The Avengers also tried to make him a member at one point, but Spider-Man declined the offer. Also, Peter finally met Mary Jane Watson, but at that time he was interested in Gwen, so Mary Jane started dating Harry. After finding an old newspaper clipping that identified his parents as traitors to their country in his aunt's house, Peter decided to learn the full story, traveling to Algeria with the Fantastic Four's aid. He learned that his parents were supposedly spies who worked for the communist Red Skull, and he came across their ID badges for the Skull's organization. Spider-Man also stumbled upon the original Nazi Red Skull and his men, who had previously worked for the other Red Skull. In the aftermath, Peter found his father's CIA identification card, proving to Peter that his parents were secret government operatives. With evidence to clear his parents' names, Peter returned to the States. Weeks later, after the return of Kraven and battling a new Vulture, Peter started wondering if he may be better off not being Spider-Man. Crime rose and a new kingpin appeared in New York and abducted J. Jameson. Peter returned to his heroic identity, and Frederick Foswell, formerly the criminal big man, sacrificed his life to save Jameson's. A mystical artifact called the Tablet of Life and Time exhibited in ESU was stolen by the Kingpin. The tablet passed over many people who tried to get it, including Spider-Man, Shocker, who was working for Kingpin, and Man Mountain Marco, who was working for the Maggia crime family. Finally, the tablet got to the Maggia boss, Silvermane, who forced Dr. Kurt Connors to translate the tablet. Connors managed to create a powerful rejuvenation serum from it. Silvermane drank it and became a young man again, but the serum made Silvermane regress beyond birth. Meanwhile, Connors, as the Lizard, escaped and later was returned to normal by Spider-Man again. Soon after, Dr. Octopus managed to get his metallic arms again and broke free from prison. After Spider-Man thwarted his attempt to hijack a plane, he started attacking the city's main power plant. Although Spider-Man escaped from Ock, Spider-Man was attacked by surprise by Ock the next day. They battled on a rooftop and Captain Stacy died when saving a child from falling debris. Before dying, Stacy revealed to Spider-Man he knew his identity and asked him to take care of Gwen. Being accused of Stacy's death, Spider-Man faced some heroes who wanted to take him to authorities, such as the X-Man Iceman and the beginner hero the Prowler. Peter even went to London to prevent Gwen's departure forever. After her father's death, things got worse. Harry became addicted to LSD, and Peter, along with Gwen and Mary Jane, took care of him. This familial stress caused Norman Osborn's Green Goblin persona to return, and he once again battled Spider-Man. During the battle, Norman was exposed to his son's declining condition in the hospital. This severed the control of the Green Goblin persona over Norman and caused Norman to have amnesia again. With his secret identity making his life impossible, Peter tried to give up being Spider-Man and created a cure for his powers that instead made him grow 4 extra arms. With the help of Kurt Connors, he found a cure, fighting Morbius the living vampire and Connor's alter ego, the Lizard, in the process. Norman Osborn's alter ego resurfaced again, and the Green Goblin kidnapped Gwen Stacy. Spider-Man found them at the Brooklyn Bridge, where they fought and Gwen fell from the bridge. She died when Spider-Man reached her with a web line, breaking her neck. The Goblin escaped. A furious Peter searched, found, and battled him again. In this battle, Norman was impaled with his own Goblin glider, apparently killing himself. Peter was extremely distraught over the death of Gwen, possibly even more so than when Uncle Ben died. An equally traumatized Mary Jane tried to comfort Peter after Gwen's death. She was initially brushed off, but they eventually got closer. After being accused of the death of both Stasis and attending Gwen's funeral as Peter, Spider-Man was confronted by heroes such as Power Man and the Punisher. Later, Harry, who had discerned Spider-Man's identity and wanted revenge for his father's death, took the Green Goblin mantle and kidnapped Flash Thompson, Mary Jane, and Aunt May in an attempt to lure him out and kill him. Spider-Man managed to find him at his father's old home and defeated him, leaving him to the authorities. Harry was sent to an asylum. The night Gwen Stacy died, Peter Parker sat alone in his small, cluttered apartment, the weight of the world resting heavily on his shoulders. The room was dimly lit by the soft, orange glow of a bedside lamp, casting long shadows across the walls. Books, newspapers, and various scientific equipment were scattered everywhere, a testament to the chaos of his life. The sounds of the bustling New York City streets wafted in through the slightly open window, a constant reminder of the city's relentless pace. Peter ran his fingers through his disheveled hair, his mind racing with thoughts of the many responsibilities that burdened him. Peter's thoughts drifted to his Aunt May, the one constant source of love and support in his life. She was frail, her health deteriorating rapidly, and Peter felt an overwhelming sense of guilt. He had been so consumed with his duties as Spider-Man that he had neglected the woman who had raised him. He couldn't bear the thought of losing her, not after everything they had been through. The sound of a ticking clock filled the silence, each tick amplifying his anxiety. Peter's mind flashed back to memories of Aunt May's unwavering support, her gentle voice always offering words of encouragement, her tireless dedication to him even in the face of her own struggles. He remembered her kind eyes, always full of concern for him, and the many nights she had stayed up late, worrying about his safety. His worries didn't end there. The recent turmoil in his life had taken a toll on his relationship with Gwen Stacy, the love of his life. Peter and Gwen had been through so much together, but the strain of his double life as Spider-Man had created a rift between them. He yearned for the days when things were simpler, when he could focus solely on his studies and his love for Gwen without the shadow of Spider-Man looming over him. Their relationship had been a roller coaster of emotions, filled with moments of intense happiness and heart-wrenching sorrow. Peter thought about their recent arguments, the way Gwen had looked at him with a mixture of hurt and confusion, not understanding why he was always so secretive and distant. As Peter sat in his apartment, he couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was on the horizon. He tried to push the thoughts away, focusing instead on his resolve to be there for Aunt May and to make things right with Gwen. With a deep sigh, he stood up, grabbing his jacket. He needed to see Gwen, to feel her presence and hear her voice. Maybe that would ease his troubled mind, if only for a moment. He grabbed his keys from the cluttered kitchen counter and headed out the door, locking it behind him. The cool night air greeted him as he stepped outside, a welcome relief from the stifling heat of his apartment. The streets of New York City buzzed with activity, the sounds of traffic and chatter filling the air. Street vendors called out to passers-by, offering hot dogs and pretzels, while tourists snapped pictures of the city's iconic landmarks. Peter navigated through the bustling crowds, his thoughts still consumed with worry. He walked with a determined pace, his mind set on seeing Gwen. As he made his way through the city, he couldn't help but notice the stark contrasts around him, the bright lights of Times Square illuminating the night sky, the laughter of children playing in the park, and the dark alleys that seemed to hold endless secrets. Peter arrived at Gwen's apartment, a modest building in a quiet neighborhood. The building was old, with ivy climbing up the brick facade, giving it a charming, almost timeless feel. Climbing the steps two at a time, he reached her door and knocked softly. The sound of his knuckles against the wood echoed in the hallway. A brief pause before he heard footsteps approaching from inside. Gwen opened the door, her face lighting up with a smile when she saw Peter. She stepped aside, allowing him to enter. The apartment was warm and inviting, filled with the scent of fresh flowers and the soft glow of candlelight. Peter felt a sense of peace wash over him as he took in the familiar surroundings. Gwen's presence had always been a calming force in his life. The living room was cozy, with comfortable furniture and framed photographs of Gwen's family and friends adorning the walls. A small bookshelf in the corner held a collection of her favorite novels, their well-worn covers a testament to her love of reading. They sat together on the couch, the tension between them melting away as they talked. Gwen's eyes sparkled as she shared stories about her day, her laughter filling the room. She spoke of her studies, her friends, and her hopes for the future, her enthusiasm infectious. Peter listened intently, his worries momentarily forgotten. He reached out, taking her hand in his, feeling a sense of connection that had been missing for too long. The warmth of her hand in his brought him a comfort he hadn't felt in days. But beneath the surface, Peter's mind was still racing. He couldn't help but think about Norman Osborn, the man who had tormented him for so long. Norman had been recovering from a mental breakdown, his mind shattered by his battles with Spiderman. Peter knew that the peace they were experiencing now was fragile, that it could be shattered at any moment by the return of the Green Goblin. The thought of Norman regaining his memory and resuming his vendetta against Spider-Man sent a shiver down Peter's spine. As Peter and Gwen talked, Norman Osborn sat alone in his mansion, the pieces of his fractured mind slowly coming together. The mansion was grand and imposing, filled with expensive art and luxurious furnishings, but it felt empty and cold. Norman had begun to remember who he was, and with those memories came a burning hatred for Spider-Man. The shadows in his mind gave way to clarity, and with that clarity came the realization that he had a score to settle. He stood by the window, looking out over the city, his thoughts consumed with plans for revenge. Peter's thoughts were interrupted by Gwen's soft voice. She squeezed his hand, her eyes filled with concern. She knew Peter well enough to sense that something was bothering him. He forced a smile, assuring her that everything was fine, but inside, his anxiety grew. He couldn't shake the feeling that their brief moment of peace was about to be shattered. Gwen looked at him with a mixture of love and worry, her intuition telling her that something was amiss, but she chose not to press him, hoping that he would open up to her when he was ready. As they said their goodbyes, Peter held Gwen close, savoring the warmth of her embrace. He promised himself that he would protect her no matter what, Little did he know, the events that were about to unfold would test that promise in ways he could never have imagined. Gwen whispered words of encouragement to him, her voice soothing and reassuring, and Peter felt a surge of determination to keep her safe. With a heavy heart, Peter left Gwen's apartment, the weight of his responsibilities pressing down on him once more. The night air was cool and crisp, a stark contrast to the warmth he had just left behind. He made his way back to his apartment, his mind still racing with thoughts of Aunt May, Gwen, and the ever-looming threat of the Green Goblin. The city's lights twinkled in the distance, and Peter felt a sense of isolation, as if he were the only one aware of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. Peter knew that he couldn't afford to let his guard down. As Spider-Man, he had faced countless dangers, but the thought of losing the people he loved was a fear that haunted him constantly. He vowed to stay vigilant, to protect those who meant the most to him. But deep down, he knew that some battles were beyond his control, and that the path ahead was fraught with peril. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever lay ahead, and continued on his way, his heart heavy with the knowledge that the choices he made in the coming days could change his life forever. Peter arrived at Gwen's apartment, a modest building nestled in a quiet neighborhood far removed from the constant hustle and bustle of the city. The ivy-clad brick facade exuded a sense of timeless charm, making the building feel like a serene oasis in the midst of New York City. Climbing the steps two at a time, Peter reached her door and knocked softly. The sound of his knuckles against the wood echoed faintly in the hallway, followed by the familiar sound of footsteps approaching from inside. Gwen opened the door, her face lighting up with a radiant smile when she saw Peter. She stepped aside, allowing him to enter. The apartment was warm and inviting, filled with the scent of fresh flowers and the soft glow of candlelight. Peter felt a sense of peace wash over him as he took in the familiar surroundings. Gwen's presence had always been a calming force in his life. The living room was cozy, with comfortable furniture and framed photographs of Gwen's family and friends adorning the walls. A small bookshelf in the corner held a collection of her favorite novels, their well-worn covers a testament to her love of reading. They sat together on the couch, the tension between them melting away as they talked. Gwen's eyes sparkled as she shared stories about her day, her laughter filling the room. She spoke of her studies, her friends, and her hopes for the future, her enthusiasm infectious. Peter listened intently, his worries momentarily forgotten. He reached out, taking her hand in his, feeling a sense of connection that had been missing for too long. The warmth of her hand in his brought him a comfort he hadn't felt in days. Gwen told Peter about her day at Empire State University, where she was studying biochemistry. She described her excitement about a new research project she was working on, her eyes lighting up as she spoke about her passion for science. Peter admired her dedication and intelligence, always amazed by her ability to excel in her studies, while maintaining her compassionate and caring nature. Gwen's enthusiasm was palpable, her voice animated as she detailed the experiments she was conducting and the potential implications of her work. As they talked, Peter couldn't help but notice the little details that made Gwen so special. The way her hair fell in loose waves around her shoulders, the soft, melodic sound of her laughter, and the way her eyes sparkled with a mix of curiosity and determination. He cherished these moments, knowing that they were all too rare in his tumultuous life. Gwen's presence was a balm to his troubled soul, a reminder of the normalcy and happiness he often felt slipping through his fingers. However, beneath the surface, Peter's mind was still racing. He couldn't help but think about Norman Osborn, the man who had tormented him for so long. Norman had been recovering from a mental breakdown, his mind shattered by his battles with Spider-Man. Peter knew that the peace they were experiencing now was fragile, that it could be shattered at any moment by the return of the Green Goblin. The thought of Norman regaining his memory and resuming his vendetta against Spider-Man sent a shiver down Peter's spine. As Peter and Gwen talked, Norman Osborn sat alone in his mansion, the pieces of his fractured mind slowly coming together. The mansion was grand and imposing, filled with expensive art and luxurious furnishings, but it felt empty and cold. Norman had begun to remember who he was, and with those memories came a burning hatred for Spider-Man. The shadows in his mind gave way to clarity, and with that clarity came the realization that he had a score to settle. He stood by the window, looking out over the city, his thoughts consumed with plans for revenge. Norman's mansion was filled with remnants of his former life as a successful businessman and industrialist. Expensive paintings adorned the walls, and ornate furniture filled the spacious rooms. Yet, despite the opulence, the mansion felt like a prison to Norman, a constant reminder of his fall from grace. As he paced the room, his mind pieced together the fragmented memories of his alter ego, the Green Goblin. He remembered the battles with Spider-Man, the humiliations, and the burning desire for vengeance that had driven him to madness. Peter's thoughts were interrupted by Gwen's soft voice. She squeezed his hand, her eyes filled with concern. She knew Peter well enough to sense that something was bothering him. He forced a smile, assuring her that everything was fine, but inside, his anxiety grew. He couldn't shake the feeling that their brief moment of peace was about to be shattered. Gwen looked at him with a mixture of love and worry, her intuition telling her that something was amiss, but she chose not to press him, hoping that he would open up to her when he was ready. Gwen tried to lighten the mood, recounting a funny story about one of her professors, hoping to draw Peter out of his somber thoughts. Her efforts were rewarded with a genuine smile from Peter, but she could still see the worry in his eyes. She leaned closer, resting her head on his shoulder, offering silent support. The quiet moments they shared were a precious respite from the chaos that often surrounded them. As they said their goodbyes, Peter held Gwen close, savoring the warmth of her embrace. He promised himself that he would protect her no matter what. Little did he know, the events that were about to unfold would test that promise in ways he could never have imagined. Gwen whispered words of encouragement to him, her voice soothing and reassuring, and Peter felt a surge of determination to keep her safe. With a heavy heart, Peter left Gwen's apartment, the weight of his responsibilities pressing down on him once more. The night air was cool and crisp, a stark contrast to the warmth he had just left behind. He made his way back to his apartment, his mind still racing with thoughts of Aunt May, Gwen, and the ever-looming threat of the Green Goblin. The city's lights twinkled in the distance, and Peter felt a sense of isolation, as if he were the only one aware of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. Peter knew that he couldn't afford to let his guard down. As Spider-Man, he had faced countless dangers, but the thought of losing the people he loved was a fear that haunted him constantly. He vowed to stay vigilant, to protect those who meant the most to him. But deep down, he knew that some battles were beyond his control, and that the path ahead was fraught with peril. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever lay ahead, and continued on his way, his heart heavy with the knowledge that the choices he made in the coming days could change his life forever. The night enveloped New York City in a blanket of darkness, its usual cacophony of sounds muted to a distant hum as the city slept. Inside the sprawling mansion of Norman Osborn, the air was thick with tension and anticipation. In the dimly lit study, Norman sat at his desk, his fingers tapping rhythmically against the polished wood as he stared blankly at the wall adorned with portraits of his past accomplishments. Memories, once fragmented and disjointed, began to coalesce in his mind like shards of glass forming a complete picture. The experiments, the serum that had endowed him with superhuman abilities, and the alter ego he had struggled to suppress. It all flooded back with startling clarity. The Green Goblin, a persona born of desperation and scientific ambition, now simmered within him, eager to reclaim its dominance. With a swift and deliberate motion, Norman pressed a concealed button on the ornate desk. A panel slid open soundlessly, revealing a hidden compartment containing the meticulously preserved Green Goblin costume. Each piece, from the armored vest to the razor-tipped gloves, seemed to gleam malevolently in the subdued light. The mask, adorned with its maniacal grin and piercing eyes, awaited its wearer. As Norman donned the costume, a transformation seemed to overtake him. The once reserved and troubled industrialist now moved with purpose and menace, the weight of his newfound power palpable in the air around him. The Green Goblin had returned, fueled by a singular obsession: the destruction of Spider-Man. Outside Gwen Stacy's apartment, a beacon of warmth and tranquility amidst the city's hustle, the night unfolded with deceptive calmness. Inside, Gwen sat at her desk, engrossed in her studies. The soft glow of her desk lamp cast a gentle halo around her, highlighting the determined furrow of her brow as she meticulously reviewed her notes. The faint scent of books and freshly brewed coffee lingered in the air, a testament to the cozy ambience she had meticulously cultivated. Unbeknownst to Gwen, a shadow loomed over her tranquil haven. High above the city streets, the Green Goblin's glider silently cut through the night air like a predatory bird, its sinister presence concealed by the cover of darkness. Norman's twisted mind fixated on Gwen, Peter Parker's beloved girlfriend, as the unwitting pawn in his twisted game of vengeance against Spider-Man. With a sudden and explosive crash, the Green Goblin burst through the window of Gwen's apartment, shards of glass spraying in all directions like deadly confetti. Gwen screamed in terror, her heart racing as the menacing figure of the goblin loomed over her, his eyes ablaze with madness. Before she could react, before she could comprehend the danger that now engulfed her, the goblin's vice-like grip seized her, dragging her forcefully towards the waiting glider. Gwen fought back with every ounce of strength she possessed, her screams echoing in the confined space of her apartment. Her struggle was futile against the goblin's inhuman strength and determination. With a cruel efficiency, he secured her to the glider, his laughter a chilling counterpoint to her desperate cries for help. Outside, the night sky was pierced by the Green Goblin's maniacal laughter, a sound that sent shivers down the spines of those who heard it. The glider soared through the air with unnatural grace, its course set for the George Washington Bridge, a place destined to become the stage for a tragic and fateful confrontation. Meanwhile, in his modest apartment across town, Peter Parker's night had taken an unexpected turn. Exhausted from a day spent juggling the responsibilities of college life and his dual identity as Spider-Man, he had settled into a semblance of peace before his spider sense erupted with a jolt of primal warning. The sensation, a tingling at the base of his skull, was a visceral reminder of the imminent danger that threatened those he held dear. In an instant, Peter shed his civilian guise, donning the familiar red and blue costume that symbolized his unwavering commitment to protect the city he loved. With practiced ease, he swung into action, his agile form cutting through the night sky with a precision born of years spent honing his abilities. His thoughts raced as he followed the urgent pull of his spider sense, each heartbeat a thunderous echo in his ears. The George Washington Bridge loomed ahead, its steel girders and concrete expanse casting long, eerie shadows in the moonlight. As Spider-Man approached, a chilling sight greeted him. The Green Goblin's glider perched ominously atop one of the bridge's towering supports. The air was thick with tension, the atmosphere charged with the promise of impending violence. With a deft leap, Spider-Man landed on the bridge, his gaze locked on the scene unfolding before him. High above, The Green Goblin hovered with Gwen still captive, her form silhouetted against the night sky like a fragile puppet in the hands of a malevolent puppeteer. The sight of her, helpless and at the mercy of his nemesis, ignited a surge of primal fury within Spider-Man. "Let her go, Goblin!" Spider-Man's voice rang out, a commanding roar that carried across the bridge. His fists clenched with righteous indignation, his entire being focused on the task of rescuing Gwen from the clutches of madness. The Green Goblin's response was a chilling mixture of amusement and contempt. "Ah, Spider-Man," he taunted, his voice a mocking echo. "So predictable. Always rushing to the rescue, always playing the hero. But can you save her in time?" With a sudden, callous gesture, the Green Goblin released Gwen from his grasp, his laughter echoing through the night as she plummeted towards the icy waters below. Time seemed to slow to a crawl for Spider-Man as he reacted with lightning reflexes, his web shooters firing with pinpoint accuracy to snare Gwen's falling form in a webbing lifeline. The strain on Spider-Man's muscles was immense as he pulled Gwen back to safety, her inert body cradled against his chest. Relief washed over him momentarily, but as he assessed her condition, a chilling realization dawned. She was unconscious, her breathing shallow and labored. Panic threatened to overwhelm him as he desperately sought signs of life, his heart sinking with each passing second. In that heart-wrenching moment, Spider-Man's grief collided with an all-consuming rage that burned with the intensity of a supernova. The Green Goblin's cackling laughter rang in his ears like a haunting requiem, a grotesque reminder of the villain's sadistic triumph. You did this?" Spider-Man's voice trembled with a mixture of sorrow and fury, his eyes fixed on the Green Goblin with unyielding resolve. "I'll make you pay." With a primal scream, Spider-Man launched himself at the Green Goblin, their clash a cataclysmic ballet of fists and fury. The bridge trembled beneath their relentless assault, each blow a testament to their mutual hatred and unyielding determination. The Green Goblin fought with a savagery fueled by madness, his attacks calculated to inflict maximum pain and suffering. Spider-Man countered with an agility and strategy born of years spent battling foes both human and superhuman. The fight unfolded with breathtaking speed and ferocity, the combatants locked in a deadly dance of life and death. As the battle reached its fevered crescendo, Spider-Man's thoughts were consumed by a singular objective: to incapacitate the Green Goblin, to prevent him from inflicting further harm on innocent lives. The stakes had never been higher, the consequences of failure more dire. With a final, desperate maneuver, the Green Goblin attempted to flee the scene, his glider a silent witness to his impending defeat. But Spider-Man's determination was unyielding. He seized the glider with unbreakable webs, yanking it down with all the strength he could muster. The Green Goblin's descent was abrupt and violent, his body crashing against the unforgiving concrete of the bridge with bone-jarring force. Spider-Man landed beside his fallen adversary, his chest heaving with exertion, his eyes burning with a mixture of triumph and sorrow. The battle had exacted a heavy toll, both physically and emotionally, but in that moment of victory, he found a measure of solace. The night air was heavy with the weight of their shared history, the echoes of Gwen's tragic fate a poignant reminder of the fragile balance between heroism and heartbreak. Spider-Man knelt beside Gwen's still form, his hands trembling as he gently cradled her, his mind reeling with the devastating realization of her loss. The city slept on, unaware of the tumultuous events that had unfolded beneath its watchful gaze. The George Washington Bridge, once a symbol of unity and connection, now bore witness to a profound and irreversible tragedy. As dawn approached, casting the first pale light of morning across the city skyline, Spider-Man remained by Gwen's side, his silent vigil a testament to a love and loss that would haunt him forever. The Green Goblin's defeat had come at a staggering cost, a cost measured not in victories or defeats, but in the shattered hearts of those left behind. The George Washington Bridge stood sentinel over the swirling currents of the Hudson River, its towering structure a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. As the first light of dawn painted the sky in hues of soft pink and gold, the bridge seemed to embody a fragile peace amidst the chaos of the city. Spider-Man stood on the bridge, Gwen Stacy's lifeless body cradled gently in his arms. Her once vibrant eyes were now closed, her expression serene in death. The weight of her loss pressed heavily upon him, a crushing burden that threatened to overwhelm his every thought and emotion. He had failed to save her, failed to protect the woman he loved from the clutches of madness and evil. The Green Goblin lay nearby, his body broken and battered from the ferocity of their battle. Norman Osborn's mask, twisted and contorted, revealed the face of a man driven to madness by his own creation. Blood trickled from a deep gash on his forehead, his breathing shallow and labored. The triumph he had sought had eluded him, replaced by the bitter taste of defeat. The bridge seemed to resonate with the weight of their shared history, the echoes of Gwen's tragic demise a haunting reminder of the fragile line between heroism and heartbreak. Spider-Man's mind was a tumult of conflicting emotions, grief, guilt, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. He had vowed to protect the innocent, to ensure that no one else would suffer because of his choices. Slowly, Spider-Man rose to his feet, his eyes fixed on the city skyline bathed in the soft glow of the rising sun. The world seemed to carry on, oblivious to the personal tragedy that had unfolded on the bridge. But for Spider-Man, the pain of loss was a constant companion, a wound that would never fully heal. A sudden movement caught Spider-Man's attention. Norman Osborn stirred weakly on the ground, his eyes narrowing in a mixture of malice and defiance. Despite his injuries, a malicious grin spread across his face, a cruel reminder of the darkness that still lurked within him. You couldn't save her, could you, Spider-Man? Norman's voice was a rasp, filled with contempt and derision. You think you're a hero, but you're just a failure like me. Spider-Man's fists clenched with renewed fury, his jaw set in determination. He had faced villains and monsters before, but none had cut him so deeply as the loss of Gwen Stacy. She had been his anchor, his reason for continuing the fight against crime and injustice. Her death had left a void in his heart that could never be filled. With a swift motion, Spider-Man webbed Norman Osborn to a nearby girder, ensuring he could not escape. The once proud industrialist struggled against his bonds, his eyes burning with a mix of hatred and madness. He knew his defeat was inevitable, but he refused to go quietly into the night. You can't stop me, Spider-Man, Norman spat defiantly, his voice tinged with madness. I'll always be a part of you. The Green Goblin will always be waiting, lurking in the shadows. Spider-Man's gaze hardened, his resolve unyielding. No, Norman, he said firmly, his voice tinged with sorrow. You may have taken Gwen from me, but you will never win. I won't let your darkness consume me. With those words, Spider-Man turned away from Norman Osborn, his heart heavy with grief but strengthened by resolve. He carried Gwen's lifeless body to safety, gently laying her down on the bridge. The world around him seemed to fade into a blur of noise and motion, but he remained focused on honoring Gwen's memory. As the sun continued its ascent, casting a warm glow over the city, Spider-Man stood alone on the George Washington Bridge. The weight of his grief was a heavy burden, but he drew strength from the memory of Gwen Stacy, a beacon of light in a world filled with darkness. In that moment, as he looked out over the city he had sworn to protect, Spider-Man made a silent vow. He would honor Gwen's memory by continuing to be the hero she had believed him to be. No matter how many villains he faced or how many sacrifices he endured, he would never give up the fight. The George Washington Bridge, once a symbol of connection and unity, now bore witness to a tragic and profound loss. Spider-Man's journey had been forever altered, his path veering into uncharted territory. But amidst the pain and sorrow, a flicker of hope remained. The hope that he could make a difference, that he could be the hero Gwen Stacy had always known him to be. And so, with the weight of responsibility resting heavily on his shoulders, Spider-Man swung into the dawn-lit sky, his determination unwavering. The city awaited, its streets teeming with life and the promise of a new day. For Spider-Man, the battle against evil would continue, fueled by the memory of Gwen Stacy and the unwavering belief that with great power comes great responsibility. The city stirred restlessly as morning unfolded, the bustle of everyday life beginning anew amidst the towering skyscrapers and bustling streets. Yet, within the walls of Peter Parker's modest apartment, a solemn silence hung heavy in the air. The events of the previous night had left an indelible mark on him, a wound that festered with grief and regret. Peter sat at his cluttered desk, his expression drawn and haunted. The morning light filtered through the window, casting long shadows across the room. In his hands, he held a photograph, a cherished memento of happier times, capturing Gwen Stacy's radiant smile and the warmth of her presence. Tears welled in Peter's eyes as he traced the outline of her face, his heart heavy with sorrow. The weight of guilt bore down on him like a leaden cloak. He replayed the events of the night in his mind, each moment etched with painful clarity. His failure to save Gwen haunted him, a relentless torment that gnawed at his soul. He had vowed to protect her, to shield her from the dangers that lurked in the shadows. Yet, in the end, he had been powerless to prevent her tragic fate. As Peter struggled to come to terms with his grief, a knock sounded at the door, breaking the oppressive silence. He blinked away tears and rose slowly from his chair, his movements heavy with fatigue. With a deep breath, he crossed the room and opened the door to reveal Mary Jane Watson, her expression a mirror of his own sorrow. Mary Jane stepped into the apartment, her eyes filled with concern and empathy. She had been Gwen's closest friend, a steadfast companion in both joy and sorrow. Together, they had shared laughter and tears, their bond forged through countless shared experiences. Now, in the aftermath of tragedy, they found solace in each other's presence. "I'm so sorry, Peter," Mary Jane whispered, her voice tinged with sorrow. She embraced him tightly, offering a silent reassurance of her support. Peter returned the embrace, his shoulders shaking with suppressed emotion. They stood in the embrace for what felt like an eternity, drawing strength from each other's presence. Mary Jane was acutely aware of the weight of Peter's grief, knowing that words alone could not heal the wounds that had been inflicted. Together, they faced an uncertain future, their lives forever altered by the loss of someone they both held dear. In the days that followed, Peter grappled with the harsh reality of Gwen's absence. Every corner of the city seemed to whisper her name, every fleeting memory a poignant reminder of what had been lost. He continued to patrol the city as Spider-Man, his duties as a hero a bittersweet distraction from his personal anguish. Yet, even in the midst of his grief, Peter's thoughts returned time and again to Norman Osborn, the man responsible for Gwen's death. The Green Goblin's twisted legacy loomed large, a malevolent presence that continued to cast a shadow over Peter's life. He knew that their battle was far from over, that justice demanded retribution for the lives shattered by Norman's madness. Meanwhile, at the heart of Oscorp Industries, Norman Osborn lay in a hospital bed, his body ravaged by the injuries sustained in his clash with Spider-Man. The once proud industrialist was now a shadow of his former self, his mind plagued by delusions and hallucinations. He raved incoherently of vengeance and power, his fevered ramblings a chilling testament to the depths of his descent into madness. Doctors and nurses moved about the room with practiced efficiency, their voices hushed as they monitored Norman's condition. They spoke in hushed tones of his prognosis, of the uncertainty that surrounded his recovery. Some whispered of the whispers of the Green Goblin, a phantom menace that haunted the corridors of Oscorp Industries. Elsewhere in the city, a sense of unease lingered in the wake of Gwen Stacy's tragic death. Citizens spoke in hushed tones of the heroism and sacrifice that had defined her life, of the void left behind by her absence. The Daily Bugle ran headlines decrying the dangers of vigilantism and the toll it exacted on those caught in its crossfire. Amidst the turmoil and uncertainty, one thing remained clear: Peter Parker, the man behind the mask of Spider-Man, was forever changed. His journey as a hero had taken a dark and tragic turn, his path fraught with pain and sorrow. Yet, amidst the darkness, a flicker of hope remained, the hope that he could find redemption, that he could honor Gwen's memory by continuing to fight for justice and protect the innocent. As night fell over the city, Peter stood alone on the rooftop of his apartment building, the cool breeze ruffling his hair. His gaze was fixed on the distant skyline, the lights of the city twinkling like stars against the canvas of the night sky. In that quiet moment of reflection, he made a silent vow to never forget Gwen Stacy, to carry her memory with him as a reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring power of love. The city below bustled with life, its streets alive with the ebb and flow of humanity. For Peter Parker, the journey as Spider-Man continued, his resolve strengthened by the memory of Gwen's unwavering belief in him. As he swung into the night, a lone figure against the backdrop of the city's skyline, he knew that the battle against evil would never end. In the aftermath of Gwen Stacy's tragic death, New York City seemed to hold its breath, caught between mourning and apprehension. The loss of the bright young woman had sent ripples through the community, touching lives far beyond those who had known her personally. For Peter Parker, the wound was raw and gaping, a constant ache that refused to dull with time. Peter's days blurred together in a haze of grief and responsibility. The once familiar routines of his life felt foreign and distant, overshadowed by the weight of guilt and regret. He threw himself into his studies at Empire State University, seeking solace in the familiar comfort of academia. But even there, amidst the lectures and textbooks, Gwen's absence was keenly felt. As Spider-Man, Peter patrolled the city with renewed determination, his patrols marked by a solemnity that had not been present before. He swung through the bustling streets and shadowed alleys, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. The mantle of responsibility weighed heavily on his shoulders, a reminder of the promise he had made to protect the innocent, a promise that had cost him dearly. Mary Jane Watson remained a steadfast presence in Peter's life, her unwavering support a source of strength during his darkest hours. She understood the depth of his grief, the complexities of his dual existence as both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Together, they found solace in shared moments of quiet companionship, their bond deepening in the face of adversity. Meanwhile, at Oscorp Industries, Norman Osborn's condition remained precarious. The once formidable industrialist languished in a hospital bed, his mind consumed by delusions and paranoia. Doctors and nurses moved about with practiced efficiency, their efforts focused on stabilizing his deteriorating condition. Yet, beneath the clinical veneer of medical care, whispers of the Green Goblin's legacy persisted, a sinister reminder of the darkness that had wrought havoc upon the city. Peter visited the hospital sporadically, his encounters with Norman Osborn fraught with tension and unease. The man responsible for Gwen's death lay before him, a stark reminder of the consequences of unchecked power and ambition. Norman's eyes would narrow with malice whenever Peter entered the room, a testament to the animosity that simmered between them. The city itself seemed to mirror Peter's inner turmoil, its streets alive with a palpable sense of unease. Citizens spoke in hushed tones of the dangers that lurked in the shadows, of the cost of heroism, and the toll it exacted on those who dared to stand against injustice. The Daily Bugle ran headlines that alternated between tribute and condemnation, capturing the conflicting emotions that gripped the public consciousness. In the midst of this turmoil, Peter Parker grappled with his own sense of identity and purpose. He had become acutely aware of the fragility of life, of the fleeting nature of happiness and security. His nights were plagued by restless dreams and haunted memories, each one a poignant reminder of the choices that had led him to this moment of profound loss. Yet, amidst the darkness, a glimmer of hope remained. Peter found solace in the memory of Gwen Stacy, her unwavering belief in his capacity for heroism, her unyielding spirit that had touched the lives of all who had known her. He vowed to honor her memory, to carry on the fight for justice and compassion that she had embodied in life. As the weeks passed, Peter's resolve hardened. He immersed himself in his work as Spider-Man, honing his skills and expanding his understanding of the city's intricate web of crime and corruption. Each night brought new challenges and dangers, each victory tempered by the knowledge that the battle against evil was far from over. On a quiet evening, as Peter stood atop a rooftop overlooking the city, he reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point. The skyline stretched before him, its towering buildings bathed in the soft glow of streetlights. In that moment of introspection, he made a silent vow to continue fighting, to never give up in the face of adversity. The city below pulsed with life, its heartbeat echoing in the distant hum of traffic and the laughter of its inhabitants. For Peter Parker, the journey as Spider-Man was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to the enduring power of hope and courage. As he swung into the night, a lone figure against the backdrop of the city's skyline, he knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges and sacrifices. But he also knew that he was not alone, that Gwen Stacy's memory would forever guide him, a beacon of light in the darkness. And with each swing through the city streets, he carried with him a renewed sense of purpose, a determination to uphold the legacy of the woman who had believed in him when no one else had. The days turned into weeks and the weeks into months. Peter Parker continued to navigate the complexities of his dual existence, balancing the demands of his personal life with the responsibilities of being Spider-Man. Mary Jane remained a constant presence by his side, her unwavering support a source of strength and solace. At Empire State University, Peter threw himself into his studies with renewed vigor, his academic pursuits serving as a welcome distraction from the turmoil of his superhero life. He found solace in the intellectual challenges posed by his professors and peers, relishing the opportunity to delve into subjects ranging from quantum mechanics to social psychology. Yet, despite the semblance of normalcy that he tried to maintain, Peter knew that he could never truly escape the specter of Gwen Stacy's death. Her memory haunted him, a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the sacrifices that came with being a hero. He often found himself visiting her gravesite in quiet moments of reflection, the serene beauty of the cemetery offering a sense of peace amidst the chaos of his world. Meanwhile, Norman Osborn's condition continued to deteriorate at Oscorp Industries. The once powerful industrialist remained confined to his hospital bed, his mind trapped in a labyrinth of delusions and hallucinations. Doctors and specialists struggled to find a treatment that would stabilize his condition, but the specter of the Green Goblin continued to loom large over the city. Rumors and speculation swirled through the corridors of Oscorp Industries, whispers of experiments gone awry and dark secrets buried beneath layers of corporate intrigue. Some employees spoke in hushed tones of Norman's obsession with power and control, of the lengths he had gone to in his pursuit of scientific advancement. Others recounted tales of the Green Goblin's reign of terror, a period marked by chaos and fear. As the months passed, the city began to heal from the wounds inflicted by Gwen Stacy's death. Memorials and tributes sprung up throughout the city, a testament to the impact she had made on those who had known her. Citizens spoke of her courage and kindness, of the light she had brought into their lives during times of darkness. For Peter Parker, the passage of time brought a measure of acceptance and understanding. He came to realize that Gwen's death had forever changed him, shaping the hero he had become and fueling his determination to protect the innocent. He found strength in the memories they had shared, in the love they had once shared. And so, as he swung through the city streets, his heart heavy with both sorrow and hope, Peter Parker continued his journey as Spider-Man. He knew that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges and sacrifices, but he also knew that he would never waver in his commitment to justice and compassion. With Gwen Stacy's memory as his guiding light, he vowed to make a difference in the world, one swing at a time.